DeMar DeRozan has had a very successful NBA career, but his journey to the NBA wasn't that easy. DeMar grew up in Compton, California, and had a pretty rough upbringing, losing his uncle and his best friend growing up. And when asked what he would do if it wasn't for basketball, he said he had no other options other than basketball. So there's a big, backstory of DeMar DeRozan growing up, but in short, that's it there. No other option other than basketball. I know losing family members, best friends, it's a very tough upbringing, and it makes his NBA career even more successful, coming from such a bad place, and now look at him, he's in an unbelievable place. So in this video we're going to focus on his NBA career. It's been a successful one, ups and downs, so let's start from the start. So DeMar, he went to the NBA at 20 years of age in the 2009 NBA draft, where he was selected number 9 overall by the Toronto Raptors. Now DeMar had always stayed close to home, stayed close in California, great weather there, and just like that, he was going to Toronto. Didn't even have a passport, and as we all know in Canada, the weather there is not great, especially in winter. So it's a big change for DeMar, and it took him a while to settle in. But he did. His 09-10 season was his rookie year. DeMar averaged 8.6 points per game, 1.3 boards, playing 77 games. DeMar, he entered 2010 NBA dunk contest, coming second to Nate Robinson. And now Nate Robinson, most people know what's happened to him since. He's a bit of a loser now, getting knocked out by Jake Paul. So, losing to Nate Robinson in the dunk contest isn't great. But he's only a rookie, so he gets the pass from me anyway. And the Raptors, they missed the playoffs in the 09-10 season, finishing 9th in the Eastern Conference with a 40-42 record. So not bad, plenty of potential there, and over the years they got better. In the 10-11 season now, on December 3rd, 2010, DeMar got a career-high 37 points versus the Kyle Lowry Houston Rockets, and that's important because, as we all know, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan will go on to have a great friendship in Toronto, but at the time they were playing against each other, Houston and Toronto, and DeMar got a career-high 37 points. DeMar went on to average 17.2 points per game, 3.8 boards, playing all 82 games in his second season, but the Raptors once again missed out in the playoffs, this time doing much worse, finishing 14th in the East with a 22-60 record. So they fell out of a cliff that season, but it's all about it's the journey of being successful. It doesn't happen overnight. So a step back in 10-11 season for the team, but a step forward for DeMar DeRozan individually. In the 11-12 season, it was much better for Toronto. It wasn't much better at all actually. They finished 11th this time with 23 wins in a 65-game season. Obviously the NBA lockout that year, they won only one more game, but it was a shortened season and they came 11th in the East. So once again missing out in the playoffs. The 2012-13 season now. This was the off season where they brought Kyle Lowry in. He was traded to Toronto from Houston for Gary Forbes. I haven't heard much of him since, so I think it's safe to say that Toronto definitely won this trade. DeMar and Kyle Lowry will go on and have a great, bromance in Toronto. Very close. They're both very sad, to leave each other a few years ago now when DeMar went to San Antonio, but they had a very successful spell together in Toronto. The two of them will be the main two players on this Raptors team for the next 6 seasons, leading into playoff success and failure. The Raptors, though, once again missed the playoffs in the 12-13 season with a 34-48 record, and DeMar averaged 18 points per game. So DeMar, he's still doing well, bringing scoring to the team. Lowry's first year in the team, but they once again missed out in the playoffs. On to the 2013-14 season now. This is where the Raptors began to break out, and so did DeMar. As I said, this was DeMar's breakout season, becoming an all-star for the first time in his career. He averaged 22.7 points per game, 4 assists per game, and 1.1 steals a game. So the assists have gone up. In DeMar's rookie season, he didn't average even 1 assist per game. Now he's averaging 4. So you can see the improvement in his game over a few years. And also 1.1 steals, as I said. So he's making an impact on both ends of the floor. He played 79 games, so very durable. And he got the Raptors to the 3rd seed. So they've come a long way. What are the 2 or 3 seasons in the NBA, missed out in the playoffs every year. Next thing you know, they're the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. They had a 48-34 record, and in 2014 playoffs, the Raptors faced the Brooklyn Nets with an old KG and Paul Pierce and all those guys. DeRozan made a poor first ever playoff game, only scoring 14 points on 3 for 13 shooting, but came back in game 2, scoring 30. So as a young player in his first ever playoff series, that's expected, but he showed that he can come back from, a bad game. The Raptors, though, would lose this series in 7. DeMar, he did average 24 points per game, 4 rebounds over the series, but disappointing for Toronto. This Nets team was well past their prime, but it was their first ever playoff series, so they had plenty of experience got into them. Now onto the 14-15 season. In November 2014, DeMar suffered a tendon injury, which would rule him out till January, meaning he didn't get the 2015 All-Star game because of that injury. But in March, DeMar scored a career-high 42 points, and in April he won Eastern Conference Player of the Month, only the third franchise player at the time to win a Player of the Month award. I think it was Chris Bosh and probably Vince Carter as well, so he's doing very well. And in 2015 playoffs, the Raptors got the 4th seed, winning 49 games, so they're improving each year, and they played the Wizards in the first round. The Raptors though were swept, and DeMar averaged 20.3 points per game. So DeMar, he's doing well, but still the Raptors can't get past the first round. This was a step back for them in the playoffs, losing to John Wall Wizards in 4, so not great, but DeMar showing signs of more and more improvement. Onto the 15-16 season now. This was a great season for DeMar and Toronto. The 15-16 season, as I said, very successful. DeMar became an All-Star for the second time, averaging 23.5 points per game, 4 assists per game, and 4.5 rebounds a game. So doing a little bit of everything, improving his game on all ends of the court. The Raptors got the 2nd seed, which is very good for Toronto. As I said at the start of the video, missing out in the playoffs, now they're a 2nd seed. They also went on an 11-game winning streak, which is very good for them. And the Raptors ended up with a 56-26 record. So very, very successful season for Toronto. The 15-16 playoffs now, round 1, they faced the Indiana Pacers. And DeMar, he scored 30 points in a Game 7 win versus Indiana. So they scraped over the line, finally got past the playoff hump of getting past the first round and scoring 30 points in a Game 7. Can't ask for much more. So they advanced on to round 2 now, where they faced the Miami Heat. And this series would once again go the distance, 7 games. And the Raptors won that game as well, which would mean they'd make their first ever conference finals in franchise history. And where the Raptors played the LeBron James Cavaliers, and they lost that series in 6. But an unbelievable season for Toronto. As I said, first conference finals in franchise history. And DeMar himself, very good season as well, becoming an All-Star for the second time, while averaging 21 points per game, 4.2 boards and 1.1 steals in the playoffs that season, in the 15-16 season. And he's also, you can't complain going to a conference finals. First time and only time, unfortunately though, DeMar would lead the Raptors to a conference finals. But on to the 16-17 season, and in the 2016 off-season, DeMar, he re-signed with Toronto, signing a 5-year, $139 million deal. So a big contract for him, and he came a long way from not being happy to go into Toronto when getting drafted to now re-signing for 5 years and $139 million. DeMar had a great scoring season this year, having 31 games, scoring 30 plus points. He became an All-Star starter for the first time in his career, and DeMar averaged 27.3 points per game, 5.2 boards, on 46% shooting from the field. So, unbelievable scoring year for DeMar this year, and a successful year for Toronto as well. The Raptors won 51 games, getting the 3rd seed again, and in the 2016-17 playoffs, the Raptors played the Bucks in the first round, where DeMar scored 32 points in a series-clinching Game 6, which had put the Raptors through to the second round, where they once again though lost to the LeBron James Cavaliers. They were swept this time. DeMar averaged 22 points per game, 5 rebounds and 1.4 steals in the 2016-17 playoffs. A step back, they still don't have enough to beat the LeBron Cavs at this moment of time. But DeMar though, he did make All-NBA 3rd team for the first time in his career. So he was doing well personally, and the team just needs to get past the LeBron Cavaliers, but easier said than done. Onto the 17-18 season now, and on January 1st, 2018, DeMar scored a career-high 52 points versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Still his career-high to this day, and they won that game as well, which is always nice. DeMar became the 3rd player in franchise history to score 50 or more points in a game. I think it was Vince Carter, one of those 2 players, and somebody else. So in great company there in Toronto, in the Toronto scoring books. DeMar would once again become an All-Star starter, which for the 2nd consecutive season, unbelievable. Became a 4 times All-Star overall. Not many players in franchise history did that. I think Chris Bosh got it 5 times, Vince Carter got it 5 times, so it was in great company, and Kyle Lowry obviously got it a good few times as well. So, in the 2017-18 season, DeMar averaged 23 points per game, 5.2 assists per game, 4 boards on 45% shooting from the field, and also 31% shooting from 3 on 3.6 trees a game. This was the most amount of trees DeMar ever took in a season, and some, below league average in scoring rate, but not Ben Simmons level anyway. I'll give him that. In the 2018 playoffs, in the first round, the Raptors would once again play the Washington Wizards, and this time they'd win. In Game 2, DeMar matched his playoff scoring high of 37 points, as the Raptors went on to win this series in 6, moving on to round 2, where once again the Raptors would lose to the Cavaliers and LeBron James for the third consecutive season. Now this one, they also got swept again. This series was pretty bad for DeMar. In Game 3, he was benched for the whole of the fourth quarter. He was playing so bad. They kind of choked that season, the Raptors. People call them the Craptors that season. It was a real low light in DeMar's career, this playoff series. But other than the playoffs, he had a very successful season. As I said, becoming an All-Star starter for the second consecutive season. And he also made All-NBA second team for the first time. And even though it didn't matter because they got swept in the second round, they got the first seed that year with a 59-23 record. Obviously it meant nothing as the Raptors got swept by LeBron and the Cavaliers. But other than that one playoff series versus the Cavs, it was a great season for DeMar and the Raptors. But that's where DeMar's journey in Toronto would end. In the 18-19 season, on July 18th, DeMar's 9-year spell in Toronto came to an end after he was part of a massive trade. He was going to San Antonio, and then Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green would go to Toronto. Now DeMar, on his San Antonio debut, scored 28 points as the Spurs beat the Timberwolves, which is a nice debut game. Show what you got. That year the Spurs got the 7th seed, winning 48 games. DeMar averaged 21 points per game, 6.2 assists per game, 6 boards, and 48% shooting from the field. So statistically, a very good season for DeMar. The 2019 playoffs, in round 1, the Spurs and the Nuggets went the distance, 7 games, but this time the Spurs would lose 4-3 to Denver. DeMar averaged 22 points per game, 4.6 assists per game, on 48% shooting from the field in that series, and that series would end up being DeMar's last playoff series as of now. The Spurs would miss out on the playoffs in the next 2 years, and in the 18-19 season, as we all know, the Raptors would win the NBA championship. So, a pretty bad season for DeMar, leaving Toronto, leaving Kyle Lowry, and they went on to win a championship. On the 19-20 season now, the 19-20 season saw the Spurs miss out in the playoffs for the first time in 20 plus years. DeMar, he still played well, averaging 22 points per game, 5.6 assists and 6 boards on 53% shooting from the field. But they only won 32 games, which only got them the 11th seed. So the Spurs had a step back that season, really poor, and they missed out in the playoffs, as I said. And then that brings us on to this year, the 2020-21 season. The Spurs had low expectations going into this season after missing out in the playoffs last year, but they finished 10th, winning 33 games this year, one more game won, getting into the NBA play-in tournament, where they would play the Memphis Grizzlies and then they'd lose. But the Grizzlies did go on to beat the Warriors, and now they're in the middle of a series versus the Utah Jazz, so there's no shame. And this Spurs team, it's not what it used to be. They're rebuilding, got some good young players, but DeMar, he had a very good season as well, averaging 20 plus points per game for the 6th consecutive season, which is always very, a sign of consistency, a sign of a good player. He also averaged a career high 7 assists per game, and that's one thing since when San Antonio improved on a lot. His assisting, as I said, in his rookie season didn't even average 1 assist, now he's averaging 7 a game. A big step forward in that area of his game. And now, overall, DeMar, he's a free agent going into the 2021 off-season, so DeMar can pick any team he wants. Cap space is of course needed. A player of his caliber is going to get a big contract. Where he'll go, I don't know yet. The Knicks, rumoured with him, of course. The Spurs, I wouldn't be surprised if he re-signed the Spurs. There's plenty of teams that could go for him. I think he'd be a great addition, not as a first man, second or third option. You have a very good chance of doing something successful. DeMar, he's gone underrated in his NBA career. He should have been an All-Star at least once or twice more. An argument he should have been an All-Star this year as well. He was very unhappy he didn't get an All-Star appearance this year. Mike Conley got instead of him. So, gone underrated over the years. Obviously a great scorer of the ball, and single-handedly kept the mid-range game alive, really. Everyone's shooting threes now. Well, he's shooting the mid-range game very well, very effectively. He was unlucky in Toronto, as I said. The season he left the Raptors, they won the championship after all the hard work him and Larry put in over those 6 years. Wasn't meant to be. They went on to win it without him. But there's still time in his career, and as I said, a free agent this off-season. You never know. He could choose the right team, and he could end up being an NBA champion himself. But overall, he's had a very successful NBA career. He's gotten paid anyway, and it's been a great journey for DeMar DeRozan. I'll be very interested to see where he goes to next. That's the next chapter of his career. We'll have to wait and see, and hopefully he'll get a few more All-Star appearances, because definitely deserves that, and maybe even an NBA championship. But that's the video, guys. Tell me, where do you think DeMar DeRozan will end up next in his NBA career? And yeah, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new, and turn on notifications, stay notified when I upload. And yeah, with all that said, I'm out of here.